going?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Oh yeah, not too bad. I'm just chilling at home. What are you doing?
I'm just studying at school. How about you?
Actually, I'm going to the city. I'm heading to a party.
Pardon, what did you say? Could you repeat that again?
I'm going to the city. I'm heading to a party. Do you want to come?
Can you understand the conversation between us? No, I don't think so. I bet most of foreign students can't understand this situation properly. Because the guy who was talking to me on the phone is Australian, the native speaker. They are using quite different sort of English in their real life, like text messages, phone calls, and small chat. Hello everyone, good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about the difference between the real English and textbook English. I'm going to divide my presentation into 3 parts. First, I'm going to give you some examples of typical Australian slang and spoken English expressions. And second, I will explain the reason for the difference between the real English and textbook English. And the third, I will give you some tips to become a better English speaker. So let's move on to the first main point. So I will give you some examples of typical Australian slang and spoken English expressions. Before we move on to the main point, I just want to let you know the exact meaning of slang and Australian English briefly. Slang is the use of informal words and expressions that are not considered standard in the speaker's dialect or language. And Australian English is the English language which is spoken in Australia, and there are no strong variations between different territories and different states. So let's have a look at our first word, outback. It's a kind of symbol of Australia, and it means very remote area which is far away. And the next one is good day. It's a short form of good day. It's a kind of greeting like how are you or how's it going. And the third one is bush. This is very outside of the city, which is surrounded by nature, and it's a very good place to be relaxed and go camping. And how about this expression, arvo? This means afternoon, so maybe we can use this expression like I will be there this arvo. And how about this expression, sarvo? It's very similar to arvo, and I have a funny story about this expression. One day I got a text message from one of my Australian friends, and it was like this: "You busy, sarvo?" At first I couldn't understand what this is saying. At first I thought sarvo could be a word from Spanish or Portuguese. So I asked some of my friends from Colombia and Brazil, but they couldn't give me the proper answer. So I searched on the Google, so finally I could find out the meaning. This meaning was this afternoon. So the meaning of the whole sentence is, are you busy this afternoon? So I could send a message back to my friends in 3 hours, and it was 5 p.m. in the evening. So I had to make sure it wasn't my fault. And the next expression is oi. I think you can hear this expression very often on the street or in a pub everywhere in Australia, because it's a kind of greeting like hey. So we can use this word, oi, how's it going? Oi, how are you? So we talk about some of very typical Australian slang and spoken English expressions. Knowing these kind of things are very good to understand native speaker, and also the best way to be very good friends with them. So let's move on to the second main point, the reason for the difference between the real English and textbook English. Let's have a look at this picture. There's a heaps of textbooks. How do you feel? It looks quite boring, isn't it? Yes, it is. It's boring. Because textbook and in-class material instructing students on the fundamental aspect of English and proper grammar. And often it uses very uncommon terms and outdated phrases. So that's why it could be very unrealistic, especially in terms of dialogue examples. Textbooks. And from now on, I'm focusing on spoken English, which tends to be very informal, and compared to written English, spoken English is very relaxed. This means, for example, people are speak, but their grammar is not quite correct. For example, let's have a look this sentence. People might say things like, "If I was a boy." It doesn't sound too grammatically incorrect, but when we are thinking about the written form of this sentence, it looks slightly odd, because if is already a wishing form of word, so it needs subjunctive tense to be used. So the proper form of this sentence is, "If I were a boy," not "if I was a boy." And the one of essential difference between spoken English and written English is the degree of formality. A written message might say, like, "Would you like to go out to have a dinner?" But the person who would write this note might alternatively say, like, "Just you want to go out for dinner?" It's very simple and it's very different.